You've no doubt heard the Battle of Yorktown, but do you really understand the integral part that battle played in gaining us victory over the British? Do you know the part that bread ovens played in fooling the British in the siege of Yorktown? And that if it weren't for 28 French allied ships, things could have turned out very differently for the colonists. Imagine you're back in one of the 13 original colonies. The date is 1781, and you've been in the fight for independence for 6 years now. Up until now, things have been looking very grim for the colonists, but a change in command brings hope when General Nathaniel Greene takes command of the Continental Army in the South. Both sides are exhausted at this point. General Lord Cornwallis is awaiting fresh supplies and reinforcements for his 8,000 troops in Yorktown, Virginia, and the colonists are beginning to build up increasing debt from the 6 year struggle, not to mention the low morale amongst the Continental Army. Since the capture of New York by the British in August of 1776, George Washington's focus has been to retake New York. Now he has a choice to make, and he's vacillating between two options: attacking New York or focusing his efforts to the south, Yorktown, Virginia, where Cornwallis and his troops are garrisoned. A rumor spreads that a French naval fleet is en route to New York City, and Washington begins to hope that this might be the missing piece that he finally needs to achieve his goal. Alas, the fleet was not headed to New York, but Yorktown, Virginia. I was obliged to give up all ideas of attacking New York, Washington wrote in his diary. This shifts Washington's focus from New York to Yorktown, Virginia. Washington starts off on August 20th of 1781 on one of the largest troop movements of the American Revolution, with his combined forces of French and American troops heading for their new target and a very unsuspecting General Lord Cornwallis. One of his advisors warns him, if the enemy perceives that we have given up the idea of attacking New York, they will reinforce General Cornwallis before we can get there. So, as a decoy, this is where the bread ovens come in, false rumors begin spreading that the Americans plan to invade New York. To enforce this rumor, troops begin building numerous French-style brick bread ovens, fooling the British into thinking that a rather large encampment was on its way to invade New York. Meanwhile, back in Yorktown, General Cornwallis is awaiting French supplies and reinforcements from General Sir Henry Clinton, not realizing they would never arrive. At the mouth of the Chesapeake, 28 French warships await the coming Royal Navy sailing up the Chesapeake Bay to deliver these supplies to Cornwallis. In what is known as the Battle of the Capes, the French battle the British for 2 hours, delivering a devastating blow to the British, destroying 6 British vessels and killing 90 sailors, while only 2 French vessels take any damage. Cornwallis is left isolated in Virginia with neither supplies nor reinforcements. If things had gone differently and the British vessels had been successful in delivering supplies, the Battle of Yorktown might have ended very differently, as well as the American Revolutionary War. It's now September 28th, 1781, 242 years ago to this day, and American and French troops have formed a semicircle around Yorktown, beginning the siege of Yorktown that would last till October 19th. They have the British outnumbered 18,000 to 8,000 troops. Their strategic move is to dig a series of parallel trenches to bring their troops near enough to inflict damage on the enemy with their artillery. The British seek to deter them by launching their own volleys to break up the siege, but the Americans press forward. Cornwallis, who's already short on supplies, begins to realize at this point that he doesn't have the resources to feed both his men and their horses. So he's forced to slay 400 military horses and dump their carcasses into the York River. A rotten stench fills the air on that date of September 30th, 1781. Cornwallis's last hope is in holding 2 pivotal barricades, Redoubt number 9 and Redoubt number 10, 2 strategic barricades that are blocking troops from entering Yorktown from the south. Finally, when both barricades are taken, Cornwallis makes one final attempt to escape across the York River, but a violent storm prevents the retreat and leaves Cornwallis with no option but to surrender. The next morning, a little drummer boy in a red coat are spotted carrying a white flag on the tip of a sword and beating Pearlie. The 2 men are brought before enemy lines, blindfolded, and so begins the peace treaty negotiations. Although peace negotiations begin that day, it takes 2 days to agree on the terms. Cornwallis makes multiple requirements to which Washington does not agree, but answers by preparing another attack. Cornwallis finally capitulates, signing the Articles of Surrender on October 19th, ending this 20-day decisive battle of the Siege of Yorktown and the colonists' struggle for independence. Washington states, "I have the honor to inform Congress that a reduction of the British Army under the command of Lord Cornwallis is most happily effected." Cornwallis did not attend the signing of the peace treaty, claiming he was ill. Instead, he sends his second in command, Brigadier General Charles O'Hara. General Charles O'Hara attempts to hand over Cornwallis's sword to the French General Rochambeau. Rochambeau, on the other hand, rejects the sword and sends O'Hara to General Washington, and then General Washington sends O'Hara on to his second in command, General Benjamin Lincoln. Traditionally, the victors march out flying their flag with fixed bayonets and the band playing a tribute to the victors. The British requested this honor, but were refused on the basis that they had not given similar honor to the Americans at the Siege of Charleston the previous year. Battle weary, the British wonder at this point if the war, whether they want to continue this battle for the colonies or give them up. 8,000 troops surrender that day, making that a third of the loss of British forces in North America. It was reported that the British played the world turned upside down at the surrender of Yorktown. Whether this is true or not, only the eyewitnesses of history will actually know.